This is the second video on translations. Make sure that you've watched video number 1 before proceeding with this one, otherwise some of the things we're going to talk about won't make a lot of sense to you. Okay, let's kick off with an example. So here are two shapes A and B, and I need to describe fully the single transformation that takes shape A onto shape B. So the first thing I need to identify here is what kind of transformation has actually happened. Is it a rotation, a reflection, a translation, or an enlargement? Hopefully you can see from the two shapes that all that's happened is shape A has been picked up and moved somewhere else on that grid to shape B. And when we talk about movements, that's translation. So the first thing I'm going to state in this question is that a translation has occurred. The next thing I need to be able to say is by what vector. So to do that, I'm going to select two corresponding points on these shapes, and it has to be 2 points that match up. It can't be one at the bottom of the first shape and one at the top of the second shape. So this is going to help me to explain what vector has actually happened to translate these two shapes. So all I do is I'm going to count the squares going across first, and then I'm going to count the squares going up and down to get from shape A to the corresponding point on shape B. So I can see that from shape A to get it in line with shape B is 8 units in the positive x direction. And I can also see that it's 3 units in the positive x direction. So this helps me to fill out my vector to score full marks on this. Shape A to B has been translated by the vector 8, 3. In this second example, I'm going to do the same thing again. The first point is always a bit of a gimme here. I need to state that a translation has occurred. Again, I need to have corresponding points that match up on both shapes, so I've selected a couple here, and this is going to help me fill out what vector has actually happened to get from A to B. So I move across first, because this helps me to fill out the top part of my vector, and I can see that it's moved 4, but it's moved 4 in the negative x direction, or 4 units to the left. So at the top of my vector goes the value negative 4. I can then see that it's moved down by a total of 7 units. So this helps me to fill out the bottom part of my vector, and this shape from A to B has been translated by the vector negative 4, negative 7. Here are a couple for you to have a practice at. Describe fully the single transformation which takes shape A to B to C and then finally to D. Pause the video here, have a go at these yourselves, hit play when you're ready for the answers. Okay, so from A to B, it's a translation by the vector 5, negative 2. From A to C, it's a translation by the vector negative 3, negative 9. And from A to D, it's a translation by the vector negative 9, 0. So in summary then, translations are a type of transformation. Remember, there are 4 of them. Translation talks about movement only, and it's described using vectors. A vector might look like this. And the top number talks about what it moves across, and the bottom number talks about what it moves up or down. Positives and negatives tell you which direction they're going in. When you describe transformations, you must state it's a translation to pick up a mark, and when you're describing them, you have to give the vector that it's been translated by. Thanks for watching these videos on translations. Don't forget to subscribe to make some more maths easy.